The massive crimson warships hung in the darkness of space, like giant metal beasts waiting to strike. Each ship stretched over 2 kilometers long, their hulls scarred from countless battles across the galaxy. Red warning lights pulsed along, their surfaces marking them as vessels of the infamous Vex mercenary corps. Inside the flagship's command center, Thane stood 8 feet tall with grey skin as tough as armor plating. His forearms moved across holographic displays, while his yellow eyes studied the mission briefing. The Krillian warrior had led successful raids on 17 different star systems, and his reputation for getting results had made him wealthy beyond imagination. 50 million credits, he rumbled in his deep voice, watching the payment details scroll past. The Galactic Trade Council must really want this technology back. His Lieutenant Corax slithered closer, the Reptani's snake-like body coiling around the command platform. Green scales caught the light as he hissed with amusement. Humans stole quantum-fold technology? Those soft pink creatures barely discovered space travel 50 cycles ago. This will be the easiest payday we have ever earned. Around them, the bridge buzzed with activity as other crew members prepared for the hunt. A spider-like arachnid engineer checked weapon systems with 6 of her arms while monitoring shield generators with the other 2. Near the navigation console, a floating Vorthan energy being pulsed with excitement, its gaseous form shifting between blue and purple colors. Thane pulled up additional files about their target. The human colony ship New Soul had departed Earth 3 months ago with experimental quantum technology that could revolutionize faster-than-light travel. According to intelligence reports, the humans had stolen the prototype and were heading toward the Outer Rim territories to establish an illegal settlement. Look at these specifications. Corax pointed at the ship's blueprint with one clawed finger. No military-grade weapons, basic shield generators, hull plating that our plasma cannons will cut through like paper. The humans might as well have painted a target on their vessel. The database entry mentioned that humans came from a planet classified as Deathworld 7, but Thane barely glanced at that detail. Every species claimed their homeworld was dangerous. The Reptani came from a planet full of acid rain and volcanic eruptions. The Krillians evolved on a world where gravity was 3 times galactic standard. Danger was relative in the galaxy, and Thane had conquered enemies from the deadliest worlds imaginable. What concerned him more was the human ship's head start. The New Soul had been missing for weeks, and tracking a vessel through hyperspace required careful calculation and expensive sensor networks. His team of trackers worked around the clock, following quantum signatures and gravitational disturbances left by the stolen drive system. "Captain Thane," called out Zix, a thin insectoid creature manning the communications array, "we have received additional intelligence from our Trade Council contacts. The human vessel carries approximately 3,000 colonists, led by someone called Captain Kim J. They also have a chief engineer named Park Min who apparently helped design the stolen technology." Thane nodded as he studied personnel files that appeared on his display. The humans looked exactly as he expected, small, fragile creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. Their average lifespan was barely a century, and they required specific atmospheric conditions just to survive. Everything about them screamed weakness compared to the hardened warriors under his command. The mercenary crew represented 12 different species. Each one evolved for warfare and survival in harsh environments. His weapons specialist came from a world where metal-eating bacteria forced evolution of creatures with organic diamond claws. The ship's doctor was a medusoid whose tentacle-like appendages could perform surgery while simultaneously analyzing alien biology for weaknesses. "How long until intercept?" Thane asked his navigator. The Vorthan energy being pulsed brighter as it calculated. "If the humans maintain their current course toward the outer spiral colonies, we can catch them in the Kepler Nebula in 6 standard days. The nebula's radiation will interfere with their sensors, giving us tactical advantage." Perfect, Thane thought. The nebula would provide cover for his ships while limiting the humans' ability to call for help or escape. His fleet consisted of 5 warships, each one capable of destroying most planetary defense systems. Against a single civilian transport, they represented overwhelming force. "Gentlemen," Thane announced to his bridge crew, "prepare for the easiest 50 million credits we will ever earn. These humans have made a critical mistake, thinking they can steal from the Galactic Trade Council and escape justice. By this time next week, we will be counting our profits while they sit in detention. Cells awaiting trial. The crew responded with various sounds of approval, hisses, clicks, electronic pulses, and growls that represented enthusiasm across a dozen species. They began final preparations for departure, checking weapons, reviewing tactical data, and plotting intercept courses. None of them bothered to research what Deathworld 7 classification actually meant. That oversight would soon cost them everything. The trap closed around the new soul like the jaws of a massive predator. 5 crimson warships materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapon systems already locked onto the human colony vessel. Thane watched from his command bridge as his ships took position above, below, and on all sides of their target. No escape routes remained. "Transmission incoming from the human ship," announced Zix, his insectoid limbs dancing across the communication. "Controls, put them through," Thane commanded, expecting to hear pleas for mercy or offers of negotiation. Instead, a calm voice filled the bridge. "This is Captain Kim J of the colony ship New Soul. State your business." Thane activated his own transmitter, letting his deep Krillian voice boom across space. "You carry stolen property belonging to the Galactic Trade Council. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded, or we will take what we came for by force." A pause lasted several heartbeats before Kim J responded. Her voice remained steady, without fear or panic. "The technology aboard this ship was developed by human scientists using human resources. We owe nothing to alien corporations who seek to exploit our people. We will not yield our freedom to anyone." Korak slithered closer to Thane's position. "Foolish creatures. They think courage can stop plasma cannons," the human captain continued speaking. "You want us? Come and take us." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Thane had expected begging, offers of payment, or at least recognition of the hopeless situation. Instead, these humans had just declared war on the galaxy's most feared mercenaries. "Target their engines and weapon systems," Thane ordered. "Disable but do not destroy. We need that ship intact." Crimson energy beams lanced through space, striking the New Soul with precision strikes. The human ship shuddered as explosions plumed across its hull, but instead of surrendering, it began evasive maneuvers that should have been impossible for a civilian transport. "They are returning fire," shouted the weapons officer. Streams of modified mining lasers and improvised projectile weapons struck Thane's flagship. The damage was minimal against military-grade shields, but the audacity shocked everyone on the bridge. These humans were actually fighting back against overwhelming odds. The battle should have ended in minutes. Instead, it stretched on as the human ship proved far more resilient than expected. When the New Soul finally suffered critical damage to its main engines, Thane prepared for boarding operations. "Remember," he announced to his assault teams, "we need prisoners alive for questioning about the stolen technology. Show restraint." The first boarding pods launched from the mercenary ships, their armored hulls designed to punch through enemy vessels and deploy troops directly into enemy corridors. As they breached the human ship's hull, Thane expected reports of swift victory. Instead, he heard screams. "Squad 7 is down. These humans are fighting in vacuum without suits. Medical team to boarding pod 3. We have casualties." They turned their own life support system into a weapon. The entire deck is flooding with superheated steam. On his tactical display, Thane watched red dots representing his boarding teams disappear one by one. How were civilians defeating trained warriors? His confusion turned to shock as reports continued flooding in. Engineer Park Min had somehow sealed massive hull breaches using nothing but emergency foam and his own body to plug gaps while working in hard vacuum. When boarding teams tried to advance through the engineering section, they found him still alive, still fighting, despite injuries that should have killed any rational being. In the agricultural bay, a young colonist named Li So had armed herself with a plasma cutter used for trimming metal supports. When 3 heavily armed Reptani warriors cornered her, she fought back with desperate fury that defied logic. The plasma tool became a deadly weapon in her hands as she moved with speed and determination that caught the experienced fighters off guard. Another colonist, Choi Bin, had converted farming equipment into improvised explosive devices. Fertilizer spreaders became fragmentation mines. Hydroponic pumps turned into pressure bombs. The entire agricultural section became a maze of deadly traps that decimated boarding parties. "Retreat," Thane finally ordered as his casualty reports mounted. All teams returned to base ships immediately. The surviving mercenaries fled back to their vessels, many carrying wounded comrades. The bridge fell silent as damage reports came in. They had lost 30% of their boarding force. To unarmed civilians, Korax coiled nervously around his station. "Captain, this makes no sense. Humans are supposed to be weak. Our intelligence reports describe them as fragile creatures from a garden world." Thane accessed the Galactic database again, this time reading beyond the basic species profile. His yellow eyes widened as he discovered information that had been buried in supplementary files. Earth was not classified as Deathworld 7 because of natural disasters or dangerous weather. It earned that rating because everything on the planet was designed to kill everything else. Humans had evolved alongside predators that would terrify most galactic species. Their homeworld featured creatures with venom that could dissolve bone, predators that hunted in coordinated packs, and environmental hazards that changed constantly. Humanity had survived by becoming the ultimate survivors. The database contained warnings that made Thane's blood run cold. Humans possessed pain tolerance levels that defied medical understanding. Their capacity for violence increased exponentially when protecting others. Most terrifying of all, they had a psychological condition their own species called fight or flight response that could turn any human into a deadly opponent when cornered. "Sir," whispered his communications officer, "the human ship is moving. Again. Their engines should be destroyed." On the main screen, the new soul limped through space using nothing but maneuvering thrusters and what looked like jury-rigged systems. Somehow, impossibly, they were still trying to escape. Thane realized he was no longer hunting prey. He was facing something far more dangerous than any enemy he had ever encountered. The Kepler asteroid field stretched across millions of kilometers, a graveyard of shattered worlds that created perfect hiding spots among the floating rocks. Thane's fleet had pursued the damaged new soul into this maze, expecting to corner their prey among the debris. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare where shadows moved with deadly purpose. "Contact lost with patrol ship Crimson Fang," reported Zix, his insectoid voice trembling. "Last transmission was a distress call, then nothing." Thane studied the tactical display where red dots representing his ships flickered and disappeared, one by one. In the past 6 hours, he had lost 3 patrol vessels to attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. The humans had somehow turned this asteroid field into their hunting ground. Security Chief Yun Ha moved through the debris field like a ghost, leading small teams of colonists in captured mercenary shuttles. She had learned to pilot alien vessels by studying their controls for mere hours, adapting to foreign technology with frightening speed. Her tactical mind processed the 3-dimensional maze of asteroids, finding attack routes that no computer could calculate. "Target acquired," she whispered into her communication device, watching a lone Reptani scout ship drift between 2 massive rocks. "Choi Bin, are your surprises ready?" The young colonist who had turned farming equipment into weapons now specialized in converting captured alien technology into improvised explosives. "Mining charges are attached to the asteroid above their position. Just give the word." Yun Ha waited until the enemy ship moved into the perfect position before triggering the trap. The controlled explosion sent tons of rock cascading down on the scout vessel, crushing its hull and disabling its engines. Before the crew could send a distress signal, her boarding team was already cutting through their airlock. What happened next would haunt the surviving mercenaries for the rest of their lives. The humans fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and savage determination that defied every military manual in the galaxy. They used zero gravity to their advantage, moving through 3 dimensions while their enemies struggled with traditional ground-based thinking. Dr. Nam Su had established a mobile laboratory inside one of the larger asteroids, where she studied captured mercenary prisoners with scientific precision. The colony's medical officer, was discovering biological weaknesses across multiple alien species, developing targeted compounds that could incapacitate specific physiologies without affecting others. The Reptani nervous system responds to modified human adrenaline, she reported to Yunha during one of their briefings. I can synthesize a compound that will cause temporary paralysis in their species. The Krillians have a different weakness. Their enhanced metabolism makes them vulnerable to blood toxins that would barely affect other aliens. Meanwhile, former Earth military officer Kang Do was transforming terrified colonists into efficient fighters using lessons learned from humanity's most brutal conflicts. He taught them guerrilla warfare tactics developed in Earth's jungles and urban battlefields, showing them how to turn every piece of debris into a weapon. Remember, he told a group of farmers and teachers who now carried improvised weapons, we do not need to be stronger than them. We need to be smarter, faster, and more willing to do whatever it takes to survive. They hunt for money. We fight for our families. The lessons were working with terrifying effectiveness. Colonists who had never held weapons before were now setting ambushes that would impress professional soldiers. They learned to move silently through the vacuum of space, using magnetic boots and guidelines to navigate between asteroids without detection. Thane received increasingly disturbing reports from his surviving crews. A patrol team described finding their missing comrade's ship drifting empty, with signs that the humans had somehow accessed sealed areas without triggering any alarms. Another crew reported being attacked by humans who seemed to ignore injuries that should have been instantly fatal. Sir, stammered a Medusoid engineer who had barely escaped the latest ambush, they adapt to our technology faster than our computers. Can analyze theirs. I watched a human girl rewire our ship's power systems in minutes, turning our own energy weapons against us. The captured scout that Korax brought to the flagship was barely coherent, his Reptani scales pale with terror. They used their own blood, he hissed. One of them cut herself and used the liquid to short-circuit our control panels. She knew exactly which systems to target, as if she understood our ship's design better than we do. That is impossible. Thane growled. Our vessels use quantum-encrypted systems that take years to understand. She learned by watching us work the controls during our previous battles, the scout continued. They remember everything, process information at impossible speeds, and they keep fighting even when they should be dead. I saw a human man with a broken spine drag himself across our deck to protect a wounded child. They turned our medical bay into a fortress and held it against 8 of our warriors. The most disturbing reports came from mercenaries who had witnessed human adaptability firsthand. Colonists were learning to survive in the vacuum of space for extended periods, using improvised equipment and sheer determination. They healed from wounds at rates that defied medical understanding, as if their bodies refused to accept defeat. Dr. Nam Su had discovered something even more terrifying during her studies of alien physiology. She was developing real-time biological countermeasures, creating compounds that could target specific species while leaving humans unaffected. Her mobile laboratory had become a factory for producing weapons tailored to each type of alien they encountered. Captain, reported his weapons officer, long-range sensors detect human activity throughout the asteroid field. They are not just hiding, they are building something. Thane realized with growing horror that the humans had turned the entire asteroid field into a massive trap. They were using salvaged materials and captured technology to create weapons and defenses on a scale that should have required months of preparation. Instead, they were accomplishing impossible engineering feats in a matter of days. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not just desperate colonists fighting for survival. They were the children of a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill them, and they had learned to turn any environment into their advantage. Thane finally understood the terrible truth. He was not facing soldiers or even warriors. He was facing an entire species that had evolved from apex predators, creatures so dangerous that their own planet had classified them as its most successful survivors. The intercepted transmission crackled through the static as Thane's communications officer decoded the encrypted human messages. What they discovered shattered everything the Galactic Trade Council had told them about this mission. The quantum drive technology was never stolen, Zix reported, his compound eyes reflecting the data streams. According to these communications, human scientists developed it independently using Earth resources. The Trade Council wanted to claim ownership through legal manipulation. Thane studied the translated documents that painted a horrifying picture of Earth's current state. Massive corporations from across the galaxy had descended on humanity's homeworld like vultures, stripping away natural resources and forcing humans into labor contracts that resembled slavery. The air was poisoned, the oceans were dying, and entire continents had been turned into industrial wastelands. The new soul represented something far more dangerous than theft. It was humanity's declaration of independence from galactic oppression. These colonists had fled their dying world with technology that could give their species freedom among the stars, and they would fight with desperate fury to protect that hope. Dr. Seo Jin worked tirelessly in her makeshift laboratory, surrounded by the corpses of fallen mercenaries from a dozen different species. The xenobiologist's hands moved with steady precision as she dissected alien anatomy, mapping nervous systems and identifying biological vulnerabilities that could be exploited. "Fascinating," she murmured, while examining a Krillian warrior's four-chambered heart. Their cardiovascular system has a critical weakness at the third ventricle. A targeted toxin could cause complete circulatory failure within minutes. Her research was being transmitted in real time to human fighters throughout the asteroid field. Jin Ai and Wu Bin led hunting parties that used this biological intelligence to devastating effect, creating weapons specifically designed to kill. Each species they encountered, Jin Ai crouched behind a twisted piece of metal wreckage, watching a Reptani patrol move through the asteroid maze below her position. She loaded a dart gun with Dr. Seo Jin's latest creation, a compound derived from earth snake venom, but modified to target Reptani neural pathways. "Remember," she whispered to her team through their communication devices, "these aliens see us as animals to be caged and sold. They came here to steal our future and drag us back to slavery. Show them what happens when you corner Earth's children." The attack was swift and surgical. Poisoned darts struck the Reptani patrol from multiple angles, and within seconds, the aliens were convulsing as their nervous systems shut down. The humans moved in to salvage weapons and equipment. Adding to their growing arsenal of captured technology, Wu Bin had taken a different approach, focusing on psychological warfare that leveraged humanity's reputation for unpredictability. His team used captured mercenary uniforms and equipment to stage false flag attacks, making the alien forces believe they were being betrayed by their own allies. "Fear is spreading through their ranks," he reported during a strategy meeting. "They no longer trust each other. Some ships have started firing on their own forces, thinking they are human infiltrators." The psychological pressure was working. Mercenary crews were abandoning their posts and fleeing the asteroid field, unwilling to face an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Those who remained found themselves fighting not just for money, but for their sanity against opponents who refused to follow any logical rules of warfare. Thane watched his fleet disintegrate as more ships disappeared into hyperspace without orders. His remaining vessels huddled together in a defensive formation, their crews terrified of venturing into the asteroid field, where humans waited like patient spiders in a web of floating death. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we have lost over 60% of our forces. The remaining crews are requesting permission to withdraw from the combat zone." "Denied," Thane growled, though doubt was creeping into his voice. "We have a contract to fulfill." The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. These humans were not just desperate colonists fighting for survival. They were something the galaxy had never encountered before. Every human seemed to possess an instinctive understanding of violence that went beyond training or experience. They adapted to alien technology faster than computers could process data, learned enemy weaknesses through observation and experimentation, and displayed a level of tactical creativity that defied prediction. Dr. Seo Jin's research revealed the biological basis for these capabilities. Human brains processed information differently than other species, with neural pathways optimized for pattern recognition and rapid adaptation. Their bodies produced chemical cocktails during stress that enhanced strength, speed, and pain tolerance. To superhuman levels, they are not just intelligent, she explained in one of her research logs. They are intelligence evolved for survival in the galaxy's most hostile environment. Every human carries the genetic memory of millions of years, spent fighting for existence against impossible odds. The asteroid field had become a laboratory where humanity was evolving in real time. Colonists who had never seen combat were developing tactical instincts that impressed veteran soldiers. Children were learning to navigate three-dimensional battlefields with the same ease their ancestors had shown hunting in Earth's forests. Most terrifying of all, they were sharing this knowledge through methods that the mercenaries could not intercept or understand. Human crews communicated through subtle body language, chemical signals, and intuitive understanding that had evolved from living in small tribal groups. They functioned as a collective intelligence that could process information and make decisions, faster than any alien command structure. As more mercenary ships fled the battle zone, Thane finally understood what he was truly facing. These were not just humans. They were Deathworlders in the truest sense, children of a planet so hostile that survival itself had become an art form passed down through genetic memory. Earth had forged its children in a crucible of extinction. Events, predator species, and environmental disasters that would have destroyed any other form of life. Humanity had survived by becoming the ultimate survivors, and now they were bringing that evolutionary advantage to the stars. The galaxy had never seen anything like them, and Thane realized with growing terror that his mighty mercenary fleet had become nothing more than prey for Earth's awakened children. The ancient space station drifted through the void like a metal tomb, its hull scarred by centuries of abandonment. Thane had chosen this derelict structure as his final stronghold, hoping the maze of corridors and chambers would give his remaining forces an advantage against the human hunters. Instead, it became the stage for his ultimate humiliation. Only 12 mercenaries remained from his once mighty fleet of over 200 warriors. They huddled in the station's central command chamber, weapons trained on every entrance, while emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. The silence stretched like a taut wire, broken only by the nervous clicking of alien limbs and the hiss of recycled air. "They are coming," whispered Korax, his reptani scales pale with terror. "I can smell them in the ventilation system." Thane gripped his plasma rifle tighter, his 4 Krillian arms steady despite the fear gnawing at his mind. Through the station's viewports, he could see the new Sol approaching slowly, its hull patched with salvage materials, but still moving under its own power. The human colony ship had survived everything his fleet could throw at it. And now, it was coming to finish what they had started. The first sign of invasion was subtle, a soft metallic sound from the ventilation shafts above. Then the lights went out, plunging the command center into darkness broken only by the glow of weapon sights and alien bioluminescence. "Emergency power should have activated," hissed his engineer. "They disabled it," Thane realized. "They know our technology better than we do." Captain Kim Jae's voice echoed through the station's communication system, calm and steady, despite the chaos surrounding them. "Thane of the Vex Mercenary Corps, you have hunted my people across 3 star systems. You have killed our children and threatened our future. I offer you single combat, your life against mine, winner takes everything." The other mercenaries looked at their leader with desperate hope. Single combat was an ancient tradition among warrior cultures, and Thane had never lost such a challenge. His massive frame and 4 arms gave him overwhelming advantages against foe opponents, and his combat experience spanned decades of galactic warfare. "I accept," Thane called out, his deep voice booming through the empty corridors. "Meet me in the central docking bay. Come alone." The docking bay stretched across half a kilometer of the station's length, its cavernous space lit by emergency beacons that created pools of light separated by deep shadows. Thane waited in the center, his weapons laid aside according to tradition, confident that his natural advantages would ensure victory. Kim Jae entered through the main airlock, moving with fluid grace that reminded Thane uncomfortably of Earth's predatory creatures. She carried no visible weapons, wearing only a standard colony suit that looked fragile compared to his armored hide. Her dark eyes studied him with the same clinical interest Dr. Seo Jin had shown while dissecting alien corpses. "You underestimated, just from the beginning," she said quietly, circling him like a hunter evaluating prey. "You saw weak creatures from a garden world and assumed we would break easily." Thane lunged forward with speed that had surprised countless enemies, his four, arms reaching to grapple and crush this human who dared challenge him. Kim Jae moved like flowing water, sliding past his grasp and striking pressure points that should not have existed on his alien anatomy. Pain exploded through his nervous system as she targeted joints and nerve clusters with surgical precision. Somehow she knew exactly where to hit him for maximum effect, as if she had studied Krillian physiology for years instead of weeks. "Your people made a critical error," Kim Jae continued, dodging another desperate attack. "You thought intelligence was just another trait, like strength or speed. You never realized that on Earth, intelligence itself is a survival adaptation." She moved with impossible speed, using Thane's own momentum against him in ways that defied his understanding of physics. When he tried to corner her against the bay walls, she used the zero gravity to launch herself from surfaces at angles that confused his spatial reasoning. "We evolved alongside creatures that could kill us with single bites," she explained, while systematically dismantling his defenses. "We survived ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and predators that hunted in coordinated packs. Every human carries the genetic memory of 1,000,000 different ways to die, and more importantly, how to avoid them." Thane's vision blurred as she struck nerve clusters that paralyzed his primary arms. His species-proud warrior traditions meant nothing against an opponent who fought with the accumulated wisdom of Earth's deadliest survivors. The battle ended not with dramatic violence, but with clinical efficiency. Kim Jae applied pressure to specific points on his neck, cutting off blood flow to his brain with knowledge gained from Dr. Seo Jin's biological studies. As consciousness faded, Thane finally understood the true horror of what they had awakened. When he regained awareness, he found himself alone on the station. His remaining crew lay unconscious but alive around him, left as a deliberate message rather than eliminated as threats. Through the viewports, he watched the new soul disappear into hyperspace, carrying its cargo of human determination toward the Outer Rim territories. The lone surviving mercenary managed to reach his ship's communication system, broadcasting a message that would spread through the criminal underworld like wildfire. "Warning to all mercenary companies, humans are not prey. They are apex predators from a Class 12 death world. They call their planet Earth, the only world where death itself learned to think. And now it walks among the stars." Within months, every major mercenary corporation had quietly removed humans from their acceptable target lists. Bounty hunters who had built careers on capturing exotic species suddenly found other work. The galactic slave trade developed a species-specific blind spot that would never be officially acknowledged. The new soul established its colony in the outer spiral, where other human settlements began appearing with suspicious frequency. Each colony ship carried refugees from Earth's dying ecosystems, but also something far more valuable, the genetic legacy of humanity's evolutionary crucible. Dr. Seo Jin's research data spread through human networks, teaching colonists how to identify and exploit alien weaknesses. Kang Do's tactical innovations became standard training for human security forces. The knowledge gained from their desperate fight for survival transformed into the foundation of humanity's expansion among the stars. The galaxy had welcomed humans as a minor species, suitable for labor and exploitation. Instead, they discovered they had invited Earth's apex predators into their midst. The human diaspora began not with exploration or trade, but with the simple recognition that survival itself was humanity's greatest talent. As more human colonies appeared throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations began to understand the terrible truth hidden in those ancient database warnings. Earth had not produced just another intelligent species. It had created the ultimate survivors, being so perfectly adapted to hostile environments that the vacuum of space itself became their hunting ground. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Death had learned to think, and now it was spreading to the stars. The end.